Honestly, if the people heard a distorted shredding Peter Bernstein, like I think that would just break the internet. All right, everybody, an amazing episode today. We have the incredible Peter Bernstein, whose influence on the guitar world, but also just the jazz world and the music world, it can't be overestimated. Once again, thank you, Peter, so much for coming. I know you've got a lot of responsibilities, so let's get into it. I just want to start off by saying, Peter, I've been playing guitar, started playing guitar actually, believe it or not, when I was 16, after years of classical piano.
Okay.
And I switched into jazz pretty quickly because of Django.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not, Yngwie Malmsteen was my guy right before Django.
It's a logical progression.
It's a logical exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, after the melodies of Django, I kind of couldn't go back. And of course, Charlie Christian, and of course, Jimmy Rainey. So then that just like opened the floodgates. And then I eventually discovered your work. And then after your work, I discovered Kurt's work. So you guys were really, really influential to me. And I would say, if it wasn't for your music, I don't know if I would have gone to the level or been as dedicated. And I would like to say, lastly, before I finish, brown nosing, that when I managed to get into the Monk competition, it was your melodies, it was your licks, it was your musicianship that helped me get to that. So I thank you very much for that.
Are you tired of the government trying to calcify your pineal gland and turn you into nothing more than a working zombie? Look no further, because the Houston Ensemble has now been sponsored by the amazing Epic Water Filters. Tell us what they do, Armin.
Epic Water Filter is the only true filtration system you need. All these other filtration systems skip out on so many terrible chemicals and minerals that are still in your water and that you should not be drinking.
Fluoride, chromium, lead, all these other things that you do not want in your water. We've got water bottles with filters on them. We've got home installation filters. We've even got pitchers. Right now you can get 20% off any of these items on epicwaterfilters.com if you use our discount code Houston Ensemble, all lowercase, one word.
That's Houston Ensemble, lowercase, one word, for 20% off your Epic Water Filter.
Well, thank you for having me. I just not trying to stop you there or anything, but just thank you for having me, and thank you for your kind words. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but whatever you did to get to the Monk competition, that's you. Nobody else plays for you. But I understand what you're talking about. It feels funny to hear you say that, because I just feel like a perennial, forever student.
Yeah.
And I'm absorbed with the people who speak the language in the way that I would like to speak it.
Yeah.
So to hear someone say that, even if I was just a bridge to actually get into somebody else that was, the creator or around when the language was being formed, of that generation, if I'm just even a link to, like, you should check out the people that created the vocabulary.
Mm-hmm. Do you
all the different dialects? I just feel like, well, it's just funny, but we all have to go back. It's a short history that we have to, but it's so rich. I mean, you could just keep digging and find something new all the time, even of the players that you thought you knew, because they led, very active lives. They were recording all the time, and it's just like there was so much music around. People told me that gigs lasted for a year. They had like a steady gig for a year, and you could take off every once in a while, but people were just playing all the time, and I'm just like, yeah, that's how the Cats got really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like they did it all the time. But thank you for your words, man. I really appreciate that.
I look forward to playing this music more and more, and always feeling like a student, like you were saying, And I was telling people before, because sometimes I have conversations with colleagues or students, and they're like, when am I going to master it? I'm like, you're not. You're not going to master it. Forget it.
That's right.
You're going to look like a master or sound like a master compared to before, or some other guy maybe a little under you. But that's just a comparative type of situation. That's not.
Mm-hmm.
And
and we're only ever competing against ourselves. If you think about it, you said you were at the Monk competition, which I haven't. A funny idea. Everyone does has a strange idea about what competition is, especially in the jazz world, because it's so subjective. I mean, maybe in classical you could just say this person had a better handle on this piece than that person, but even at the highest level, everything is subjective. So competition is an absurd notion. What it is a way for the community to come together, and I guess they got something they have to give to somebody. So But I was involved in a competition over in Krakow a couple times, and after hearing everybody play, I was just like, wow. I mean, people are on different levels of their path, but once you hear somebody play a few times, you get a sense of their humanity, and it's kind of like, you can't judge this. It's like, I have an idea for the winner. We'll just have the final event in the competition, which is the banjo toss, which is whoever tosses the banjo the furthest, okay, you win, because that's actually something you can measure. You can just see. I mean, not a nice banjo, a crappy banjo, but I mean, just like the idea of just like, who can win? You can't win at jazz.
I agree. I mean, also,
it's a strange thing, but it is just a thing of like, as long as you're getting better, as long as you're hearing yourself better, hearing people you play with better, like being able to listen better when you play, and your ears open up and hear more details in the music and more details in what you're doing or trying to do, then you're getting better. If your ears are getting better, you're getting better. You can operate the machine and get your fingers and, but the name of the game is to hear more.
That's right.
It's just like, the more you develop your palate, you can taste things better. And the more you develop your eye as a painter, you see shapes, you see color, you see perspective, you see all these things. Your eyes. So we have to have ears on the level of like that not a normal civilian has. Like we have to have like Spider-Man level ears. Like we can just hear stuff, and that heightens our experience in the world through our ears. But that's what it's all about. Playing an instrument is about. This is more than, although with competitions, we were like, oh, I better get this together, because that kind of puts everybody in that path. But for me, the name of the game is just, are my ears getting better? Do I hear more than I did, a few months ago?
I've
That's what's exciting. Well, I never heard that before, or I never noticed that. Discovering things in that world is it. But
kind of going off of that.
Anyway,
just one thing before we recorded what we were talking about. Luckily for us, I feel like we've just gotten an insane amount of practice recently, just because of being in Houston. And like, for example, we were just playing all day yesterday, which is really awesome. And thankfully, because Houston has nice weather, we're outside all the time, which is even better.
Right.
And it's really been like a fruitful experience recently. And what was I was gonna say something. Like you were just saying how you're just hearing more detail, or you said like it's a kind of like a painter seeing new shapes or seeing light reflect differently or something like that. I feel like maybe a little bit of the reason that I moved away from so much classical was because of some sort of the boundaries for creativity are a little bit more stringent. Of course, you can add your own little touch, but I felt like, man, the core of what I want to do is create, and I can't necessarily create something of my own while I'm playing, a big old Tchaikovsky symphony, something like that.
Right. Yeah, you're an interpreter, and the best, you have different levels of maybe leeway as an interpreter. Maybe as a conductor, you make decisions for everybody, but as the, somebody in the section, it's not the place where you're really able to make a lot of decisions about stuff. So it's a different thing, and I respect people that can just, you know, sit down and read anything, get a good sound of their instrument. That's a skill that is rightfully revered, and those people deserve good jobs and stuff if they can do that, because they're important, you know. But in terms of a relationship with your instrument, it's got to be a different thing when it's not about, you know, read this, you know, this is what your instrument does. It's like, here's a sketch for a story, and we're all gonna get together and tell it. You know, then everyone's responsibility becomes much greater.
That's a very cool way to look at it.
The privilege to make decisions about what happens in the music is, you know, is a heavy thing, and with that privilege comes great responsibility to understand the music you're playing, to understand maybe your instrument's role in a way, and everyone grapples with, like, well, how much do I do it like they did it, and how much do I do it like I want to do it? And there's that kind of like a struggle of the different kinds of your ego. You know, the ego that's like, what can I do? And then the ego that has to work with other egos that are like saying, like, what can we do? How can what I do be a strong part of, like, our communal offering? You know, that's what it is. And that's what playing with people is about. But you know, classical musicians do that because they blend. If you watch, like, I mean, chamber music play, I guess they have a lot more freedom because there's, you know, string quartet. They're all breathing together and making decisions together about the interpretation of the piece. So it's a place where you have more leeway. But at the same time, it's always about getting your instrument to sound with the other instruments and you know, make the other people around you stronger, which is a heavy thing. You know, you have to deal with both when you're an improviser.
Yeah.
You know, you have to deal with the we and with the me. You know, like, what am I got to get my shit. What is what I want to play? You know, and that's a beautiful thing because, you know, it makes you deal with both sides of existence. You know,
right.
I have my consciousness, and then I'm part of, you know, like, do I live in a nice place, you know, where people around me are, you know, diverse, have different ideas, but we all can get along. Like, that's the deep thing about music, why it's so far reaching beyond just sounds. It's just like people work together. You see a group play, and it's like, wow, there's hope for people, you know, they can do it. You know, here's an old person, here's a young person, here's you know, here's this person from this culture and this place, but they're coming together. How are they coming together? Because we're all playing body and soul. So that's our common, you know. Now, what do we have to bring to this discussion about this song? And that's the beautiful thing, because it's like, you can't do it by yourself, but you're actually required to make a contribution, you know.
Yeah.
Be you know, instigate, but you know, it's got to be in balance, you know. So I don't think there's too many other things that humans can do that really, you know, because they're not saying, like, learn to play and then just do this, you know. That's kind of like you're depriving the individual of finding themselves, you know.
Right.
But you're not alone. You're not just, whatever I want to do, I do. I have to play with people. I got to get better at, you know, how my sound feels, how my feels with other people. And that's the beautiful thing. When you play with someone all day, that's worth, you know, 75 hours in a practice room.
Yeah.
On a certain, because you can't get that in a practice room.
Right.
You have to do it playing with people. So
And
that's a great thing.
I was gonna mention a couple of things, because I don't know if you remember, Peter. A couple of my good friends from UNT, Juno Song, and Jack Robin.
Jack Robin, yeah, I just saw him
Right, so
I saw him on Zoom. Yeah, he's in Tennessee now teaching,
Oh,
but
okay.
I'd seen him when he was out in Colorado. That's right.
Great. Yeah, so they came down and they jammed a little bit with you, and that must have been fun. I wish I was there for that.
Yeah.
And
that's right.
And also, man, so many things. I wish I had to write this down because I just forgot about that. Yeah, I was gonna say, when Kurt was on here, you know, I know you've done a bunch of interviews about get how to play guitar well, how to like what the substitute chords are for Stella, blah blah blah. But what I want to get in with you is, we were talking to Kurt about how to get in that zone where the music is speaking, like with not just hesitation, but no barriers. Because a lot of times, when you were talking about ego, right? I find that even the most seasoned players with years and years and years and years of experience, for example, Osnoy was just telling me that I think it was Adam Rogers who was saying, like, man, I've been playing so long, but I still haven't completely figured out how to just chill out, let the music speak, and just clear the mind. So do you have any kind of strategies or thoughts on that?
Well, I keep trying too. I keep trying too, and I have to allow for thoughts to come into my head and then just let them pass away. Like, I try not to let, I enjoy being able to focus on the other people around me playing. Or if it's just me playing and I'm alone, I'm not really alone, I'm alone with the song. So get into the song and all the, looking at the song that you're playing, whatever the form is, as really something to, a puzzle that can take all of your attention. So anything that you think of in your head about, like, well, how am I doing, or how is this going, or what should I, who's listening, or things that get in the way of this thing, they're just going to take your attention away from the puzzle.
Right.
So you're just like you want to be like a child playing with something, unselfconscious, but it's very hard to get in that space. And when you get in that space, it doesn't always last. So I just have to allow that it's fleeting, and I just have to allow that, sometimes I'm relaxed, sometimes I'm less relaxed. That's also honest. I can't put myself in a place where I'm relaxed. It's because you're posing. I mean, on some level, which is part of it, the whole fake it till you make it. Like, if you try to affect something, eventually it might become natural. So really, I just accept the fact that what's important to me about playing music is going to reveal itself. So I have to focus on what's important to me, not how am I doing?
Right.
Or was I in the zone? Or was I, like, the zone is a thing that, you might be in it and oh wait, was that the zone? I don't know. Was that, can we go back to it? It's gone. You know what I mean? Like, I just accept that it's a thing that's, it's there in 1 minute, it's not. So I don't want to, I feel like playing music is more fun than ever. I feel maybe like a little bit of what I've always hoped to feel, which is like, I pick up the guitar and I say, well, let's play something, whatever it may be, and just be able to say, this is the thing I care most about in the world, and I want to get the sound right. I'm always going to be fiddling with this and that to try to get this. Am I in tune? All this stuff. But the best I can I just pick up the instrument when we start to play, just say, fuck it. Right. And let it go, and hope that whatever comes out is going to be real. And the more I think about how I'm doing, good or bad, because once you realize you're in the zone, then
you're not.
How can you be in the zone?
Yeah, right.
So it's kind of just like, focus on the puzzle, focus on the cats around you, focus on the sound we're making right now.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like this in 10 seconds. It's not going to be like this, and then tomorrow's going to come and the gig will be long over.
Right.
So it's just like, be in the moment, and if the moment is a moment of distraction, a momentary distraction or self-consciousness, that's real too. But I enjoy the fact that it's like, wait, what are you thinking about? Back to the topic. Where are we in the tune? What's happening? What's the next harmonic little landmark milestone in the song? How can I manipulate it and have it serve my own, good or evil purposes, whatever my intent may be with this part of the song? Like, what am I gonna, like, let's just stay on the path and find new ways to, move around and connect the parts and just play with something like you are truly playing. So I've thought about that a bit, and sometimes I can beat myself up like, well, after all this time I shouldn't do this thing. So okay, well, rather than beat myself up about not being relaxed or not being concentrated. Let me look at a way that I can, positively, constructively deal with what it is. I don't want to just say, I wasn't in the zone. That's too abstract a criticism of myself. I want to be like, I got to learn these songs better. I got to hear what's happening better. It can come down to a mechanical thing that takes the spirituality part out of it. Like, you deal with that, separately when you're kind of just walking down the street hearing music and trying to connect to what your imaginary sound is, your imaginary phrasing. If you could play anything you want, what would you play? That kind of thing, practicing away from your axe. But then when you're holding your axe, you're confronted with this thing that you can do things on it, other things you can't do on it. So how do you tell a story with the characters given to you? How do you tell a story in the setting that's given to you? How do you how do you paint a picture with these, few colors? And you make the best of it. You make the best of the situation. So
I feel
to me, it's always about getting deeper into the music. Do I know this song? Do I really understand what's unique about it?
Yeah, I feel
that keeps me in the zone that I want to get deeper into. Like, what haven't I discovered about this little turn in the music? How can I get to the bridge a different way? If I concern myself with that, I think that sometimes you actually find some new stuff if you're looking for it. So that's what I've
been realizing a lot recently. That I feel like your personal life also has to be in check. Also, Peter, is my volume a little bit low for you?
You're a little low. I find myself leaning forward when you. That's all, but that's okay.
Maybe, how about a little
like
bit
Jim
of that?
Hall, you play really quiet and people listen. Listen harder.
I feel like more than ever, I've been realizing recently that your kind of outside life needs to really be in check, whether it's like emotionally or spiritually when you're performing. Just because I know for myself, and I've been thinking about it recently, obviously, that if something is out of line outside of where I'm playing, or, something's bothering me, I'm not going to be able to focus on the music. And I feel like I've talked with a lot of musicians about that specifically, and it might be we might be lucky in that sense, in that having that feeling or having those feelings get in the way of your music might keep you more honest, contrary to some other, profession or like activity, whatever you want to call it. Even I feel like you might not get into the, like, you could be emotionally distraught but still be painting. I'm not exactly sure I'm sure it's very similar, but I know that when I'm playing live and something is bothering me, it's definitely going to mess me up a bit. I'll be able to fake through it for sure. But I was just curious if you have any thoughts kind of on that.
Yeah, sure. That's being able to, it's not really faking through it. It's just like doing what you have to do at that moment. Right. And that's to me, like playing music, it can be the most fun time of the day. It can be the funnest thing that you do all day. So I'm just really trying to enjoy it. If things are great in life, great. Then you feeling happy and excited to, get off the gig and get back to your fun life. That's cool too. But the gig is also just a place where whatever's going on, this is another place, the bandstand, as they call it, and the people that you're kind of sharing that sonic space with, it's its own world that you can kind of, if you have to, you can escape into it, And I don't know, I don't think, it might be super distracting if things are too good, outside of your life, you have no problems, I don't know, and now I would kind of be like, oh God, I have no problems. Oh God, what's
That's a good point, for sure.
That's ominous, I don't know. I know what you're saying, and it's good to be in emotion, of course. But to me, the emotional check that you're talking about, maybe, or for me, it is like just saying, hey, this is a time to have some fun, be, full of gratitude that you can play your instrument. If people are there to hear you, wow, that's even greater. You're playing with people. Hopefully you have respect for them, and you can learn some music for them. So just open your ears and have a good time and try to contribute. And really, whatever's going on in life, it's suspended. It's kind of like you're going into outer space where the normal gravity doesn't apply.
Yeah.
So that's it. You're out there in space. That's it. Everything can float.
This might be a question that you don't want to answer, but let's say Peter Bernstein just got done with a gig. He has 2 hours, 3 hours free time. He wants to relax. He wants to have a lot of fun. He wants to unwind. Okay, what is Peter Bernstein gonna do?
After a gig? Well, I mean,
or a free day, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, these are all very abstract, almost rhetorical questions, because I have a family. I have 2 kids. I don't have any free time. I'd be more likely to have free time on the road than I would at home. So if I'm on the road, and this is all projecting because we haven't done that in a while, and even hanging after a gig these days is kind of like maybe you have a beer and talk for a minute, but then there's the sense of like, there has been like, okay, we got to get out of here. We're indoors. We shouldn't be, it's kind of like the hang is over, but the melody lingers on, as that song almost goes. There is no hang, but I mean, I just enjoy being around the musicians. I try to like, and whoever else comes to see you play, like to me, it's like more than ever. And this is right before this whole lockdown. Like I would be on the road someplace in some little town in Germany that has a jazz series because of like one crazy dude in the town who's just like done it for 25 years, and he's brought all these people. It's like, wow, there's a gig in this little town, which if it wasn't for this person would not really have jazz, would not be on the circuit. But yet people come to this town, maybe from the area around, and they support jazz. And it's this little thing, that a few people kind of are into, and it's just like, it's a miracle. They have these planes that take you there from where you live, and then it's just like the whole thing is like so fantastical if I really think about what's going on. So it's like that's a cause for to be very grateful and be very feel very fortunate and very lucky that you can play music, especially music that you want to play, and people want to listen to it, and they come out. So I'm happy after a gig to talk to the people that came to the gig, maybe go get some food, have a few beers. That's it. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a super hanger, like, what can we do next? It's 1 a.m. Like I'm always, since I never was, but now as a family person, my normal rhythm is just like, okay, we've been up. We can't go to sleep right after a gig, but a little chill down, maybe. I'm ready, man. My brain, I've made decisions. I've listened hard to the other musicians, hopefully, and really went on a little trip, and I'm tired from that.
Right.
Actually,
Yeah. It is draining.
And as much as I love people are tiring sometimes too. So if you're talking to people on top of being tired, I have a short window of like, and I'm like, all right, time to.
No, I feel you.
Turn on the news or whatever, see how terrible things are in the world, maybe, and just what's going on, or just sleep and think about the music. Think about, I mean, if you're on the road, you get to play again tomorrow, so you're in this state of like, oh, this is cool. Let's get in a rhythm. There's tomorrow too. What can we do tomorrow? How can we make it different? How can we make it? What worked? Let's keep that. Like whatever.
You
So I don't know if I answered your question. If it was like
you answered my question. Yeah, you answered my question.
You play with one of my favorite organ players, Dr. Lonnie Smith, and I was just wondering if you could kind of share some of the experience of what it's like working together.
Well, I mean, Dr. Lonnie is one of the most incredible musicians I've ever heard or played with. I mean, he's just an amazing person and just a completely musical being. Everything he touches is music, and that the organ, the way he's mastered the organ to get sounds out of it that he got all the sounds that everybody that came before him got. He understood how to do all the he learned from all those people, of which there were maybe about 5 or 6. The organ was a new thing in the 60s. Jimmy Smith, and then people came after him playing it in the way that he did. And Lonnie comes right out of that tradition, but his imagination took him, and his eccentricity, just took him into other places. And he just has the best groove, the best feeling, the best imagination, I mean, at the best, but the most, he's a complete, he's all the way out there and all the way in, too. And just getting a chance to play with him at first with Lou Donaldson, which was a really great experience. And him and Lou always had a great chemistry. And they're so different, yet it was great the way he played that gig. And then when I got to play with him, when he was doing his own thing, like a trio, he was much freer in terms of where he could take the music and stuff like that. But, Lonnie always makes the music feel good, always makes the best out of every instrument. I've seen him play some very crappy organs on the road. He just kind of looks at him and has a good laugh and says, okay, what can we do with this? And just, totally was the greatest lesson of don't complain about if the amp is messed up or whatever's wrong. It doesn't matter what's wrong. You get to play music, project joy, project love, be creative, reach, be dramatic. That's the thing. I would just marvel being around him and just feel like such a, just drab, because he's just so, he tells you what he's playing, with his face, with his body, he's a complete performer, and so there's not that many people like that in jazz that really are that have that element of drama and the good kind of show business, the good kind of performance.
That's a good point. I almost feel like, and this is not entirely true or anything like that, but watching older footage of jazz versus, and this is probably more to do with a very particular new aesthetic, and you might have some comments on this, but I know I do. For me, and I might sound a little bit mean saying this, but I wanna make people understand this is just my opinion. I feel like there's this new aesthetic where the jazz is beginning to sound like some sort of pseudo Middle Eastern out harmony thing, and everybody's kind of writing this kind of out Eastern sounding stuff, not even necessarily because they're from that blood or they're even familiar with that sound, but because it's the new cool thing to do. And
right.
and I'm gonna have to bring this up real quick. I'm an Armenian, so I've heard the real shit. I've heard the real Eastern sounds, and there's some
it's folk
music, right? And I'm like, well, if that's what you're trying to go for, why don't you just go for something that's actually in your bag, in your blood? Because I don't think you understand. And it just, I'm not gonna mention any names, but it has the effect of all kind of sounding like a little try hard, and then also a little bit where's your smile? Where's the enjoyment? I'm trying to figure out what you're even doing right now, and I honestly can't. And I've been listening to this music forever, so and so there's that. And then maybe if you can remember this next part of the question, I want to know what your thoughts on that is, and then I want to know what you think about affected guitar playing. I know a few months ago, I don't even know who started this conversation with you or who said something, but they were like, Peter Bernstein doesn't use effects. And I normally don't even use effects, but now because a lot of people are wanting it in gigs and such, I'm doing it more. Give us your thoughts on that. Where did this fad come from, and where did this aesthetic in modern jazz come from? Because I know you've seen it personally.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think I know what you're saying. I mean, there's things that come and go in terms of what, like you say, what kind of tunes cats are writing now, and what's the latest thing. I don't know. I mean, with the appropriation of various kind of different folk musics like that I think has always been the case in jazz. I mean, that's not a new thing. People were doing. There's a Pat Martino record where it's like exploring the sounds of India, in the '70s and stuff. And like he was like, people were checking out stuff. I mean, Coltrane did it.
Definitely.
Dizzy did it with Cuba. You know what I mean? He like because this guy Chano Pozzo was in New York, and so he was the one that taught Dizzy about all these things. But there's many worlds of music to open up, and I don't know. I think how it comes into being part of someone's music really has to do with their depth as how they appropriate things, how they use things. I mean, it's really taste and who knows? Maybe there's some people in Cuba who would say what Dizzy did, that's not really Cuban music, or what like. I mean, somebody might say, well, he had original guys, so that makes it authentic. And other people will say, well, he had the authentic part, but it wasn't this either. So there's many levels, and that becomes political of like what's cool to use and what's not cool. Ultimately, jazz is the thing that borrows a lot of sounds from around the world, and I think that goes in a faddish way, like clothes, in a certain way. Like cats are wearing this kind of stuff now, and they didn't used to, or now they're wearing this kind of stuff again, which they used to wear back then. Although now it means something different. Everything is context. Everything is cultural. So I really think it has to do with like I would have to judge every person, every piece of music on its own merit. Like that was a successful marriage of like here's this kind of Elvin-y groove, but they also threw some other stuff in there. I guess, did it work? Well, it could work, but it could also not work. I mean, just to even say that someone's building on top of an Elvin type of groove, that's already appropriated from music that's 60 years old. That doesn't come from where we came from.
Right.
And what,
That's true.
So I think it's a fine line when you start to say it's got to be pure. Like that's
Yeah.
That's a spiritual thing that the person, like Dizzy, seemed like such a pure spirit that everything he did had a purity to it, And so, but then someone will say, he's playing with those, rock rhythms, man. That's, there's people that got on Miles Davis for playing rock rhythms. The people that got on Miles Davis for wearing clothes that were associated with it's all kind of like you're always going to piss somebody off. You're always going to. So I just try to look at it like, yeah, I see trends. I see those things happening. People definitely that kind of. That I know what you're talking about. That sound, all the odd meter stuff, which really wasn't even a thing when I was, kind of coming up as a student. There were some things, and people would play and some odd meters, but it just wasn't as prevalent. And now I think you have a lot of guys that are more comfortable in odd meters than they are playing in 4/4, or swinging for sure in 4/4. So I don't know. That's just how things change, and but still there's guys that are more pure about playing bebop from the 40s now than there were in the 80s, and it was closer to that. So it's just some people that decide, okay, we're gonna be monks. We're gonna do this, and everyone, and if they're gonna, borrow folk music from different places around the world, if they do it in a strong way, an artistic way, with taste, and it sounds like music, it doesn't like. I'm not judging it for its purity level. I just think the foundation has to be there. People playing with good sounds, good rhythmic feeling. You have to have the basics. You have to have. If you're a musician, you got to deal with rhythm, melody, harmony. Dynamics. Timbre.
Yeah.
If you think about the greats, like Monk had his own approach with all those things. Bird had his own approach with all those things. Coltrane. You have to have your own way into all those elements. Joe Henderson did. Like certainly Louis Armstrong did. Like what these people like Louis Armstrong and Billie Holiday, what they did with American popular song. These songs were like a few years old, and they were sung totally straight by people. Straight, no jazz rhythms. These are show tunes written by show people, and the rhythms are dot 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 dot. Dot, 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 like that kind of, that's how the songs were written. But Louis Armstrong came along and was like, okay, I'm going to teach the world how to play and sing these tunes. And Nat Cole did it too. He could sing straight and it's still jazz. Frank Sinatra got it from from listening to Billie Holiday and just the way so I don't know. It's all like what people are they dealing with at the foundations of music, and do they have some sense of history to it? That's the thing I think maybe you're concerned about, is just like people grabbing like sounds that are in the air now, and they have no understanding of the foundation which you need, where you can grab anything and make it musical. And then it's your personal taste of how deep into the countryside you go, and for folk influences or not. But
and just to be clear, because I don't want nobody to misunderstand me, if you want to take other sounds and other music, like, dude, I'm all for that. Like, I think people should be doing that, because that's like a brilliant way to actually connect, and right. it's so yeah, I mean, appropriation.
But respect is key.
Yeah,
respect is key.
Yeah.
Like you say, as someone with ties to that, with cultural ties to that. If it doesn't hit you in a place where it feels honest, then maybe what it is that the person doesn't really understand the culture that they're brought. Like, maybe check it out a little bit more before you just kind of gloss something. Yeah, and because that's just like whatever. That's just like a.
And I feel like what Armin is saying, maybe you're saying a little bit to the effect of, like, don't write something, or maybe people write something in odd meter just for the sake of trying to make something hard, rather than coming from a place of like spiritual creativity, maybe.
Which that's a good point. And Peter, I know. I mean, I've heard a lot of your original music, maybe all of it. And I wonder because Oz was telling me, for example, and sometimes I feel this way. Usually, the best melodies and originals, they just kind of like come to you when you're not even planning on it. You can be dreaming about this stuff, wake up in the middle of the night and be like, whoa, that's a nice melody, get the memo and then record it real quick. What's your thought process on originals?
Well, I mean, all different ways. I mean, I've always, enjoyed just trying to fiddle around with sounds. So I would learn a new sound. I would try to write something with it. I try to take a sound and, have it lead to something else. Make a little story, put chords together, put intervals together, different things, and I tried to develop like some sense of craft of like, okay, you have this thing, there's different ways, different choices you have of how to develop it. But with writing in a jazz context, I have to always keep in mind, like, well, it's got to be something that people, and also myself, are going to want to play. Yeah. It's a question of how much do you write into it and how much do you leave it open, leave it as a suggestion. Just harmonic progression and a melody. That should be enough. Maybe a couple things where this bass line is important, or this little thing is important, or here's a little figure here. But as little of that as necessary. A little of that as possible. Only what's necessary, because I want people to bring their own things. Kind of if hits are supposed to be in a tune, they will find their way into it because people will do it naturally. Right. And that's the best thing, rather than someone reading it, as opposed to hearing the melody or hearing the cadence of the whatever and just kind of like setting up the next phrase. That's where, composition should evolve. And I really like the feeling of like playing a tune with different people and having it be different a little bit. Yet also the tune has enough of a personality that it retains some character, but like playing it with this person or this rhythm section has a different feeling than playing it with these folks. And that's nice, because then it's just like a topic. And it's just like, let's talk about this, and the conversation is going to flow differently with different people depending on their opinions and how they express themselves. And that's what a tune should be. Just a template, just a suggestion, just a a setting, a storyline, a plot, some characters, whatever. That it shouldn't be overwritten. That's classical composition. That's writing everybody's part, which I would love to get into, but I have not had the really just the ability or the time to really indulge writing a piece. But I try to write. I try to really take a lot of time with these kind of skeletal tunes that I do write, and try to make them have as much of a personality as possible. And a lot of times they're for different functions. This one is so that we have an excuse to play on a minor blues. This one is like a wrinkle on this one. This is its own chord progression that I'm going to enjoy, like trying to play over a different chord progression, because that will lead me to some different places melodically and whatever. So they're all, I try to write different types of tunes, and if I want to play them, then they'll survive. If not, then I still had a good time, and it's still positive to just try to tinker with something and see where it can go. But if it does kind of form and you can get out of the way and let it kind of write itself, or just kind of throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and see, well, whatever sticks, I guess I'll go with that. That's still on the wall, so that's what I'll play, and keep going from there. Kind of what's strong, what hooks up the vibe, what hooks up the next part of the form, So those are my feelings on that. So I definitely don't want to write hard tunes for its own sake. If it's hard, there's got to be some logic to it of why it's hard to play over these chords, but there's got to be a way to connect them. If there's a melody that connects them,
yeah.
But to your other point about effects and stuff, that's just, the guitar is being used in a different way in a lot of groups these days not these days, in the last 20 years or so, really, like, it's become the atmospheric effect in a lot of, even most of the acoustic groups with horns and even acoustic piano and bass and drums. The guitar is maybe what vibes used to be in the, give it like a little sheen or a little bit of, different kind of textures and colors. And guitar players that have really mastered the ability to get sounds and influence the music texturally, if they do it well, then great. That's and they have my total respect, because you have to control all those sounds. When I was coming up in the mid '80s is when I kind of went to college, jazz college, and that was the height of the chorus craze. Like Roland Jazz Chorus, where everyone was playing with the chorus, and I just saw a lot of my student guitar player friends kind of getting with that, like, this is the new sound, this is Stern and Feeney and all these guys are chorus, and reverb. And I was like, that's cool. I like a little reverb, and that's, my approach to trying to learn how to play at that time was like, I think when I heard guys that couldn't really play, like I couldn't play, plug in the chorus, they all kind of had it gave them all a certain thing. They all kind of sounded alike. But the guys that originated that sound didn't sound alike. Frizzell, Metheny, Abercrombie was a little bit before Metheny, and those guys that were dealing with more electronic, Schofield, like people that were like excited by when rock came along and the guitar became this electric thing, But where I was at as a 19, 20-year-old, 18, whatever, just like trying to learn how to play jazz, listening to like Miles and Charlie Parker and Sonny Rollins and Clifford Brown, it's like, this is what I want to learn. The guitar players in those times all sounded different to me. You mentioned Jimmy Rainey, Charlie Christian. You go up to Barney Kessel, Weiss, Jim Hall, Oscar Moore. Did I say Kenny Burrell? Grant Green, Tal Farlow, all those guys, Benson. They all sounded totally different, but they all basically played a box through an amp, Yet they sounded different because of the choices and their touch and the way they conceived of the instrument, conceived of the music. So I was like, wait, I don't want to just put on the chorus and get this little shimmery thing happening, because I think that's going to keep me from learning to get a touch, to learning the instrument and finding the sound here. Because I did hear Schofield play on an acoustic guitar. He sounded exactly the same. So, like, he didn't need that. He just picks down here, and like he gets that. It's in his phrasing. It's not a flanger or whatever.
Right.
It's not overdrive. It's and Metheny too. He doesn't need that reverb, and all that. It's in his touch. Frizzell too. He couldn't do all that stuff with all those sounds if the core foundation of he is strong, man. His sound is strong. He puts the notes where he wants.
Yeah.
And he's able to really manipulate the sound thing to enhance this foundation of a touch on the instrument. I just never got out of that world where I felt like effects were helping my sound at all. When I got this Zeidler guitar 20 years ago, it was more acoustic. It's real like a carved top, and when I would mess with effects once in at home and stuff, it affected the way the notes popped out, and I just didn't. I never, and I'm like, what music am I playing where this is called for? I mean, it just, I didn't find that. I didn't find the you know, I didn't have a gig where it's like, get some effects, man, and you can do this gig.
Right.
I just never, that never happened. So I developed along the lines of like, still working on my touch, and that's where I just, at this point, I mean, I'm not averse to it, but
Yeah.
I put in the effect, and the sound of the note, the way it comes out changes.
Honestly, if the people heard a distorted shredding Peter Bernstein, like, I think that would just break the internet. Just
There's a couple recordings I did where actually people added some weird effect to the guitar after the fact, like
Wow.
in the mastering or the mixing. Yeah, I just wasn't even like. There's one Lonnie Smith record where they put some effects on my sound, and I was just like, that's not cool because I didn't hear that sound when I was playing. So that's, you know, I mean, if you wanted me to, you know, play with that sound, I would have experimented with it and tried to play something from the sound, you know. So that's to me what it's. If you just add it on later, that's weird.
dang,
because
so
I
they
wasn't-
didn't even tell you about it. They just added it in post.
They just made a choice to kind of just this one little section, and
Okay.
I was like, you know, I mean.
Wow.
Yeah.
It wasn't my record,
Yeah.
you know? But it was a small thing, and it's not, you know, whatever. I mean, it's just music. Who cares? But
Yeah.
it is a personal thing in terms of like somebody, what are they doing, you know? But it's just like I've heard people use them in great. I love the way Eric Gale. What is Eric Gale? He has that weird kind. Is it a flanger or some kind of weird effect? in
Something
it?
like that,
Really
yeah.
Very cool. I like that, man. I liked when Wes turned on that vibrato switch
Yeah.
on the Fender amps or whatever, you know, like that. Make it sound like vibes.
Peter, we're not going to keep you forever, but I have a
Oh.
personal question.
Oh, sure.
When you're thinking about bass, when you're thinking about, we'll keep it more specific to upright bass right now. And let's say you're picking somebody to play with. What's going through your head with what you want for bass, sound, etc.? I just want to know your thoughts.
Well, it certainly doesn't have to be upright bass. You know what I mean? I don't have any. I think it really has to do more with the way the person conceives of their role as the bottom of the music, as the lowest part of the music in a lot of ways. You know, of course, how they solo is important, and I like to be around great soloists because it's, you know, that's exciting. But the bass, you know, every bass player will tell you that they spend most of their time accompanying and providing the bottom of the music. So I love bass. I'm really into it, and I'm just really into how people create forward motion with the notes that they choose. And of course, the feeling, the length of the notes is really what it's all about too, in terms of how it feels. But you can have a great beat, you know, where you can play one note and it can feel great, but then the idea of constructing a line that keeps the music forward, that keeps kind of like manipulating the tensions of the song, like that's a really an amazing sensitivity that even other musicians don't get to experience, because they don't have to, you know, get down into the, you know, that place where you kind of really steer the ship. There was an interview with Ron Carter once about, you know, it was a Miles Davis thing, and they were asking Ron about playing in this, you know, in the band with Herbie and Tony and Miles, and like how the rhythm he's like, the interviewer said, you were the anchor of the greatest rhythm section and the most adventurous rhythms. And then Ron stopped the guy. He's like, I don't like that word anchor. And the guy said, oh, really? Why? He says, well, the anchor is the thing that keeps the boat from moving. Nobody wants to be the anchor.
Yeah.
You know, and it was a good point. Why you put the anchor down when you know, when the ship docks? I mean, you knew what the guy was trying to say.
Right.
He's holding it down. I don't like that word anchor. And then the guy said, oh, okay. Well, what word would you use to describe it? And Ron's like, no, that's your job. He put it right back on the interview and said, I'm not going to think of the word for you. You think of the, you know, he said, you know, he just took offense with his original choice of word. But it was great. Like Ron, the way he laid it out there, and it's classic, you know, Ron kind of like being a stickler for details and intention and meaning, you know. And that's just the way a bass player thinks. Kind of like putting everything else around him in some kind of context, you know. So if someone can really understands that role and makes everything else sound good, makes the music flow and feel good, by their choice of notes, when they decide to pedal, when they really have control of the music, because it's like right where harmony and rhythm meet, the intersection.
Yeah.
And the bass is right there. It's like if the bass player knows the tune really well, the music will probably sound pretty good. If the bass player doesn't know the tune, everyone else can know the tune great, but it just will be missing something.
Right.
So I think the bass is really the key. So I can't say I look for anything except like, man, I love bass players. I can't wait to hear what they're going to play, and how they're going to lay it down. Like that's
good.
I love that. And when I play duo with other guitar players, or with a, just duo where I have to accompany and kind of be the rhythm section without bass, I've really keyed into like, how do I create the lowest part that, I'm not a bass. I don't really go low enough to do some things that basses do, but I have to deal with the bottom of the music, and that's like that's taught me so much about music, is trying to play, from that role.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you. I mean, that is all very valid to me, and I'm gonna think more about that.
Do you play upright or electric?
My main is upright,
Both.
but I play both.
Yeah.
So.
And you play classical upright. Obviously.
Yeah, that's what I studied, and
oh wow.
I was about to go to Manhattan to go to MSM.
Wow, for class.
For jazz, actually.
Oh, for jazz.
But then that's when COVID happened, and.
I see. Yeah, there's no need to be in New York now. You might as well be.
Houston's been cool though, but it would have been with a Buster, and maybe next year we'll see what goes on.
Yeah,
it would be cool.
Come back. So you guys are both classical, like, converts. That's interesting, man.
Oh yeah, I mean, one quick story. Maybe you'd find this funny. I remember the day when I decided in my mind that I wasn't gonna play classical piano anymore. I went to the lesson. I had like one of the most legendary teachers of all time.
And you were serious. You were at a high level.
Yeah, I was competing the whole nine. As you do in the classical world, lots of competition. And I was like, teacher, her name was Shu Mei Xiao, and again, like a legend, right? So I was like, can you improvise any jazz? Can you play any jazz? And she's like, not really, but I can improvise Baroque pretty well. And she just went on and just created a whole invention, just like on the spot. And it was amazing.
That's
like,
cool.
I can't do that shit. You know what I'm saying? But, there wasn't any of that quote unquote jazz. I mean, it's bebop still. I mean, Bach is kind of bebop, you know what I mean? Right?
Yeah.
So
without the rhythm.
Without the rhythm. So, and it was exquisite. So like I realized that she was a complete master of her craft, but it wasn't what I was searching for. And at that moment I was like, okay, I might have to step down from this. But I just wanted to say, Peter, because I know you have things to do. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Man, thank you guys, man. Really appreciate. Nice to talk to you. I see you got some appreciation for visual art there too, man.
Oh yeah,
I like that. Your walls, man.
Thank you.
Wild.
And I hope that honestly, I would love to catch a lesson with you at some point.
Hey, sure, man. Get together.
In person would be amazing, but maybe Zoom too, if you're down for that at some point.
Of course, man.
And I'll talk to you later, and we'll link you when everything's done. We're gonna link everybody to your material. If you have an album out you'd like to promote, we can link that as well. And we'll be sharing.
Well, I got one that came out back in October, so I guess, as for for pandemic times, that's not that long ago. Right. I guess October wasn't so long ago. It's so little happens, But I was very lucky to be able to make a recording back in June of last year, which was kind of surreal. But hey, it came out, and so that's the most recent thing.
Okay.
And hey, man,
I will link that.
I'll send you the info or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, man.
And we'll send you the podcast when it's ready. We're gonna be promoting it quite a bit when it is ready, and we'll be talking to you soon, Peter.
Cool.
Beautiful, man. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
All right.
Peter. We'll see you
Have
soon.
a great day.
You too.
Likewise.
All right, man. Ciao.